Domination and the 1.35 update for EU4 is right around the corner, and I am super stoked because today I get to show you guys how to dominate as Russia, starting as Muscovy. Paradox is even being so kind as to sponsor me to make this video, graciously paying me and giving me early access to the patch and the DLC. If you want to see EU4 gameplay, this is the channel for you, and if you are not already subscribed, I definitely recommend you click that red button below the video so you don't miss out on the plenty of fun videos to come. Two things. One, I am aware of the massive zit on my forehead. You don't have to comment below making fun of me. I'm aware I look like a goober with it. Two, if you're wondering why my game looks the way it does but is in Iron Man, check out the mod pack linked in the description. I have a curated Iron Man achievement compatible mod pack linked there. We begin our journey today under the Tatar Yoke, which is an event that fires for Muscovy on load-in here in 1444. Feel free to stop and read the flavor text, and that applies to anything and everything that I hover over here. I'm not going to read it for brevity's sake, but the long story short is we are going to end up losing prestige, and we will have to pay tributary to the Great Horde every single year until we get rid of this modifier. And this is the modifier down here in Sarai. It is giving them 2 ducats per month. That's 24 divided by 12 if you don't know. And all we need to do to get rid of it is to occupy it, which shouldn't be too hard. And we're going to want to do that early on because our finances are going to be hurting because of it. Of course, any good campaign, you have to start off with getting your estates done. And there's quite a few new ones that have been added in 1.35. Just to show you a few of them. Establish the Cossacks regiment is going to be very important for this specific technique we're going to be doing here. And I'm going to go ahead and recruit leaders from the Cossacks as well. And when I say there's a lot of new ones, there is a lot of new ones, like 10 per type of estate. It's actually nuts. I'm going to open up right off the bat, going indebted to the burghers just to get a little bit of money early on to kickstart our early wars. We do start off with strong duchies, and we also have this whatever this is system. We're going to get rid of this as soon as possible. And one of the cool things that was shown off in the dev diary is early serfdom versus peasant freedom. Now, I'm going to explain a very nice and very interesting way to get rid of this, but we are going to go with enforcing serfdom, as it is going to give us some solid bonuses, number one being the war taxes cost, and the other one being manpower recovery speed. The peasantry is brought into serfdom, and they can kick rocks. One of the nice changes that they made is that religious culture and religious diplomats no longer have an unrealistically large amount of effect on the influence. Now we can actually go ahead and use those. It's going to make it easier on us to expand, get our subjects in line, all that stuff. And obviously the meat and potatoes of this update for Russia is going to be focused on this mission tree. It is a big and a beautiful mission tree, and actually once we found this Ardum, it will get even bigger. But more on that later. The first thing we need to focus on right here is rallying the army, meaning we need to have at least 10 admin mana per month income and be up to 80% of our force limit. Simple enough. All we need to do is hire a level 2 advisor. Tax is fine. And in order to get 80% of our force limit, we're going to go ahead and hire the Grand Company over here in this Rzhev province. Our other armies are all going to get up here and get into position. And I highly recommend early on starting to improve relations with your subjects, especially the smaller ones that you want to start working through incorporating them early on. We have quite a few subjects, and we definitely want to get integrating them sooner rather than later. As our mercs finish here, you're going to see we are going to get this mission done, rally the army, and it's going to give us an event. Now, this event is very interesting because basically what it does is it lets us choose, do you want to go kind of classic Russia, how it was before this patch? Or do you want to go a little more of a kind of high risk, high reward play style? Essentially, this one says business as usual, but this option here basically makes it so you do not get permanent claims from your missions anymore. Rather, you get regular claims, which obviously has the downside of being more expensive to core, but you get a permanent modifier that negates that coring malice. You get a free diplomat, claims bordering claims for the rest of the game. You don't even need the age objective, and you can claim entire states, which has been removed from the Sardom government type and placed in this one here. Oh, and also it doesn't cost more to get extra claims, so every claim is 20. And if you have espionage ideas, every claim is only 10. So we, for the sake of this, are going to go with this today because we want to be as strong as possible, as quickly as possible, and never look back. And now that we have these claims, we're going to declare war, but because EU4 is EU4, we have to wait until next month, but it doesn't matter because you can't really declare war until I think the 12th of December anyways. The 12th of December is here, and Novgorod has not gotten any allies, and that is very good for us because we are going to get a very big conquest war off on them. It doesn't necessarily matter what you go for. The war goal basically just means that you get ticking war score sooner. So we're going to go for this Torzhok province because it is going to allow us to get quite a bit of a war score very early on. Early on, we're going to be starved for admin, so if you get events that can get you admin mana, use them. Also, the government reform progress is going to be very important for something I'm going to show you later on. A little bit of flavor here, the third period of the Muscovite Civil War, so we're going to send Vasily here into exile, which is fine because he's actually trash. And Ivan will also go into exile. We're going to get some malices until they come back. and loses stability because technically he, died or whatever. We have a terrible 1-2-1. We're going to work through that as soon as we possibly can. I highly recommend you keep your stability at least +1 so that you can get some prosperity growing sooner rather than later. And here we have to pay our first round of tribute. I definitely recommend just paying it early on because we cannot afford a two-front war against Novgorod and the Great Horde. So for now, we'll pay it, but we will get that money back very soon. We have an heir to the throne, Vasily, here. You are terrible, and I don't look forward to this, but apparently we have a state of strong aristocrats. Now here is a peace deal that I think is going to work well for us. So the reason why I'm going with this peace deal specifically is I'm taking low dev provinces because we need at least 13 provinces, one of them including Novgorod, for this mission. So this peace deal will allow us to take exactly what we want here. And we can also take a couple of ducats for our troubles as well. So we're going to click that button here, and that will allow us to do this mission here, which is going to give us an event that is going to develop Novgorod here, as well as give us some more claims. And here is the part where it becomes a little bit of a judgment call as to how you want to proceed, because we did give up the permanent modifiers, which means that we are working on a clock here. One thing that you can do is give up a couple of your provinces to your subjects so you don't have to core them yourselves. And now we have to decide whether we want to go southeast into the hordes or west into the Baltic and Poland, Lithuania. Now, Lithuania went under the personal union this time around, which is going to make things a little bit more complicated, but it probably will be just fine. You can see here that we have tons of claims on Novgorod, of course, and we will take the rest of them in the next war. But we also have claims on Livonia, because the window to the west here requires us to own all of it, which might be easier said than done. Regardless, this is the next way that I will be going today. Also remember to consecrate metropolitans as you're able to. Getting your patriarch authority as high as possible, as quickly as possible, is going to serve you well in the long term. We have our boys here on the border. I am going to go ahead and attack for like Narva over here. Now, the reason I am not at all opposed to taking a ton of land in this war is because there are some really good subjects that we're going to be able to release out of this. And if you haven't noticed, Muscovy leans pretty well into subject play, at least early on. As part of Muscovy's new national ideas that they got in the update with Domination, we get a free Diplo relation, so there's no reason to not take it. So off to war we go. And it's good practice to spy on people that you're at war with. It allows you to get faster siege ability on them. A lot of people don't know about that, but it's very useful. And now we can decide whether we want to pull Vasily out of hiding and let him retake power, as well as get Ivan Veliki, or however that is pronounced, as our heir at the cost of fighting a couple of rebels. Or we can just keep what we have here. Now, these guys are terrible. I think it's actually worth it to fight the rebels. I don't know. I think it's probably situational depending on who you have as your leader at the time. I think I'm going to go ahead and bring him back out of exile. Nice. The last jousting tournament. Always love that event. And the nice thing is that Riga joined this war, so I'll be able to annex them as well. Riga is a very important trade city. It gives you a ton of trade power here, which allows you to propagate more trade power up here and collect more trade power in Novgorod, which is our home node. And now you can see here why we are using mercs. Manpower is hard to come by in Russia in the early game. Karelia popped out here, guaranteed by Tver, so I think it might be a good choice to get to war over here. That will allow us to annex Ryazan as well. I probably will do that as soon as I possibly can. Ooh, more stack and wiping, very good. We are going to slacken the recruiting standards. It says 5 yearly army professionalism for 100% manpower recovery speed. I think that is going to be useful for us because I'm kind of taking some bad fights here. So we're going to go ahead and slacken those up, fill the ranks. We have finished the Muscovite Civil War as well, so we can go ahead and take some national unrest reduction as well as yearly legitimacy, both useful things to have. And in order to secure strong leadership, we need to have a better leader. Obviously, our heir here, Ivan the whatever, is going to go over the 10 threshold. So we're going to be able to get that mission done as soon as we get our next heir. Everybody is occupied now, so let's go ahead and recall our diplomats and start getting some peace deals. I'm going to annex Riga. Now, I can't reach this to core it because I don't have coastal land, which is unforeseen, but it's fine. I'm going to go ahead and subjugate them, and we are going to piece them out separately because this will allow us to full annex these lads over here. We'll also take all of their money because screw them, that's why. And we have 1 slot for a subject, so let's go ahead and release a subject. I don't want to core up all this land. We'll go ahead and give it to Estonia, and then what we're going to do is we are going to give Estonia all the land. Also enforce religion on them, because why not? We now have our window to the east, going to give us some trade efficiency, some shipbuilding time, which is going to be pretty useful. And we also get a claim on the Baltic region, as well as Finland, and then a couple of other things up in the north. Now is the time to go ahead and attack these guys. We're going to annex Karelia, Tver, and then we're also going to annex Ryazan. I can't co-belligerent them because they will call in the Great Horde, I'm not willing to do that quite yet, but we will very soon. So let's go ahead and declare this war. We will not be able to full annex Ryzon in the peace deal, so you have to separate peace them. A little bit of extra AE, but it ain't nothing but a number, honestly. So we'll take that, and then we will also go ahead and piece these guys out, full annexing both of them, as well as taking all of their money. I'm going to go ahead and separate piece these guys out since they were co-belligerented. That will allow us to take a lot more money, help us pay off some of those early loans, because why not? If we can do it, we should get the money. Obviously, we want to core up what we can, and that's going to take some time because we just took admin tech, admin dingus, and I shouldn't have taken it. Do not take admin tech. Always, always, always make sure that you are getting your cores done, because overextension is going to kill you. We're going to pay the tribute just a couple more times. We're going to finish this up very quickly. And in the meantime, we're going to start annexing our subjects as we are able to. Our claims here are going to be well into the 60s, almost into the 70s, and our truce is up here with these guys just in 2 years. So we are going to attack them, full annex them, finally handle these rebels that my poor subject has been dealing with for forever. And in the meantime, we're just going to sit back, pay our tribute for now, and then annex our subjects as we are able to, because that is going to allow us to get quite a bit more powerful. These guys have one ally, and it's Uzbek. I don't care about them. First reform, you could go with something interesting like this that is specifically for the Ruskies, but I recommend always, always, always going for more manpower, because more manpower is going to save you a ton in the long term. Now we are going to start working on our Cossacks here, because we want to start working them into our armies, because the Cossacks are very, very powerful and very based, as the kids say. If you do not know, the Cossacks do an extra 15% shock damage, meaning they inflict 15% more casualties in the shock phase, which shock phase is where cavalry shines. Shock is actually cavalry's primary damage type here. So it actually does 0 fire damage at the moment. So clearly that's going to be a good thing for us, especially up against a Clop Clop horse nation that definitely has pretty good cavalry, because they get extra bonuses because they are a horde. Truce is up. They have no allies. So Odoyev actually. So that's perfect because I can just annex them. Let's go ahead and head on in and take them out. We have our first reform here in our new fancy Russian government reform. So let's go ahead and click this button and we'll lower the autonomy in a few of our provinces. So that's a nice little thing there. Now I have a yearly inflation reduction advisor and a trade efficiency advisor. If you don't know, you can get an event through having both of these two advisors at the same time called Radical Reforms that will get you a lot of mana at one time. So very useful. And wham bam, thank you ma'am. We annex everybody and we take all of their money. And just like that, we have consolidated Russia, giving us -3 unrest to the death of our monarch. Though I'll be honest with you, he is pretty good, but these extra mana would be very useful. So I think we're going to go ahead and take the stab hit, get him out of there. And now we have 2 missions to click, because we have secured strong leadership once we get our legitimacy up. And then when we can click this one, and now we can get this modifier for the entirety of our new monarch's lifetime. And now on to breaking the Tatar yoke, but we definitely need to keep our eyes peeled for a moment of weakness up here in Finland. We want Sweden to break free, and we want to attack Sweden when they are in their war. It's going to be very important for us. So what I'm going to do here is, if you don't know, you can right click on these guys. You can mark them as a vital interest or a special interest, and or you can do it over here. And what will happen is you will get special mentions. You will get pop-ups. It will say, hey, somebody declared war on Sweden. And that's how you do that. So very, very useful situationally, but still very useful. We're now over our governing capacity as well. Yoink some crown land that gets us up over 30, just to go right back under it by taking out this guy, which will give us some more governing capacity. Very useful. And apparently through changes of the balance of power between the Tatar hordes and the Muscovite state, the yoke has been impossible to be enforced. It looks like we got too strong for them in under 20 years, lads. How about that? And now all we need to do is move on down and take Sarai, and we can start this portion of the mission tree. But while our claims are existing, I am going to make sure we are taking advantage of them. And I really, really, really hope that these guys declare their war soon. It would be very good for us. Now, I am taking all the money that I have and we are investing it into churches, because there is another branch of our mission tree down here that we can unlock only through building 20 churches. So the tax meta shall be embraced. Though there was some new things that were added to base tax. So base tax now actually affects a couple of other things moving forward, like great project upgrade cost is one of them. Institution spread, I think, might be a new one. But yeah, base tax actually is more useful than it used to be. So there's something to consider. Of course, we need to start getting our Streltsy fired up as well. So let's go ahead and build up to those 6 that we're allowed to have. We can kind of pick who we want to be our ally. Bohemia is looking pretty good at the moment. They have 23,000 men, so I'm going to go ahead and ally them. We also could ally somebody over here like Nogai, but they're going to be in war with us very soon, because we're going to be going to war with Kazan before too long. And now that that we have 90 legitimacy, we can secure strong leadership, which is going to give us some reform progress growth for 40 years with a loyalty to our estates and a changed national focus cooldown, though we're still going to be focused on admin for quite a while. Though with our first idea group coming up, we need to start considering what we want to do, and it's generally considered to be the best opener for any Orthodox nation to go religious. Now, I will not be going religious today, and I'm going to explain to you why. We are going to be leaning into Cavalry Russia. That's right, my friends, because this mission right here, the conquest of Finland, which we will be doing very soon, hopefully, will allow us to release Finland as a personal union and use their cavalry mercenary company. And if you don't know, that cavalry mercenary company is quite powerful, and I'm going to show you that. And leaning into the cavalry combat ability awarded to us by Aristocratic, as well as just the good bonuses in the first place, cavalry cost, which will make our merc company cheaper, extra manpower, army tradition, Aristocratic is just overall a very well-rounded idea group. We even get a leader siege pip guaranteed after the end. And as far as your second idea group goes, it's really up to you. You can go religious because religious does pair pretty well with Aristocratic. You can see we'll get an extra national unrest and missionary strength, but where it really shines is with espionage. You can see there down near the bottom, Aristocratic Ideas gives an additional 10% cav combat ability with espionage, and espionage is very strong. Espionage gets buffed like every patch. That's like the new joke. Is like, honey, there's a new patch, time to buff espionage. It's the truth. So what I would probably be doing right now is going Aristocratic into religious into espionage, but it really depends on what kind of mana you have available to you. And if you don't want to go Cavalry Russia, you just go religious first. That's the way to do it. Here we go. Let's go ahead and take that tech and go with Aristocratic Ideas. We're not ahead of time on mill. We're actually on time. But because we haven't embraced the Renaissance, it's going to be harder to do this. We are going to go ahead and embrace this before we worry about going through our idea group. And that's just because this military tactics is going to be very useful for going to war. Plus, we get some infantry shock and some infantry fire. So buffing our infantry and getting some mil tactics is going to allow us to beat up a lot of important people in war very quickly. Perm has been integrated, meaning we now get the subjects of Muscovy to give us some Diplo mana, which is nice. It basically helps pay for the integration costs that we paid for them. It also allows us to take some tax, so we should definitely do that. All the while, we will continue to up our Cossacks numbers. Again, closing in on our governing capacity cap. So let's go ahead and give up some land rights in exchange for some governing capacity. We're going to develop this province here a couple of times. It's very affordable considering the fact because of this renovated Kremlin modifier that will allow us to embrace the institution just a little bit quicker. I'm getting a little annoyed here. I'm sitting here waiting, and Sweden just will not declare independence despite having England and Burgundy supporting their independence. Also, what the heck is up with this Ulster? Danish, Britain, and Ulster. So yeah, that's a thing. But yeah, I can't really attack them. They're very strong. They have a huge army, and their allies are going to swarm us. I would much rather not deal with that if I don't have to. We outnumber them if I want to go, but I only have claims for about 2 more years, so I think it's probably best to just get claims ourselves and declare the war on our own. But now would be a very good opportunity for us to get a couple of these claims like I had talked about and push down here. We need to at least take Sarai for this mission here, break the Tatar yoke, and then we need to work over into these regions over here. So yeah, it's just going to be a matter of time. So I have 2 stacks here. I have my normal stack, and then I have my special unit stack. This is the stack that we're going to use to put the pain on these boys. Now, I probably should get a couple more infantry, so let's go ahead and get a couple more infantry into this stack. This stack is going to be my doom stack. Turn our army maintenance up, let them get a couple of months here while also turning our forts on. They're going to call in their ally of Uzbek. I don't care about Uzbek. Let's go ahead and attack these lads. Let's get the doom stack in here and see if we can make something happen. They outnumber us. Our beloved heir dies. Oh no, that's terrible. What are we gonna do? Yeah, these guys outnumber us, but because of our special units, I have a feeling it's gonna go quite good for us. Yeah, that went pretty good for us. Meanwhile, my claims have expired, so I am working my way through getting these claims back on our behalf. Should probably take whatever we are able to. I'll take that fort as well, and that AE means nothing to me because these guys are all a bunch of turd nations that I plan to conquer later anyways. We have 2 missions here. Break the Tatar yoke, giving us some PP, which is nice. It's going to give us big PP, which if you don't know, if you have your PP over 50, you gain an extra 1 mana of each type every month. So very useful. 36 mana per year, actually. So let's go ahead and do that to get big PP and some free mana on the way. And then Land of Churches giving us some Patriarch authority and allowing us to get an extra 10% good produce for 25 years. So quite a nice little thing there. And once we get our Patriarch loyalty over 70, we'll be able to get this mission here, which will give us cost of reducing war exhaustion for the rest of the game, as well as an event to get us some stability. Pretty nice. Now, I am going to go espionage for my second idea group because all of the extra spying that we're doing will be very useful. Plus, like I said, I want to pair it up with aristocratic to get that extra 10% cavalry combat ability from the policy. Wow, that's a lot of money. Thank you. I will pay off a couple of my 4% loans for that money. There's also a gold mine over here that might be worth going for, so I'm going to go ahead and get a claim on that and take that as well. I still can't believe Sweden hasn't declared independence. They have had 100% liberty desire literally for like 30 years, and they just won't declare it. Very annoying. Ooh, always appreciate some Byzantine refugees. A little late to be getting that, but yeah, we just got it. Now, one thing I think I am going to do is go ahead and ally England over here. They're going to want to go to war with Denmark, and if I can call them in against Denmark, they will probably use their navy to help me out over here. I definitely should also be getting a navy because I don't have one at all. Apparently, I inherited a couple of ships, but we're going to go ahead and get some galleys because they're basically just going to hang out around over here. I don't have any intention of using them outside of the Baltic over here. And since I keep getting busted spying, we're going to go ahead and get this war prepared here. And then going ahead and attacking these guys. It says England won't join, but they will. We're going to get Bohemia in as well. And we're going to go for Viborg, and then they will call in their allies. Now, England actually will join if I promise them territory up here, which I will happily give them. And that immediately makes this a lot more impressive on our end. As far as tier 3 for bureaucracy, I always just take this expanded royal court because it allows you to get an extra 20% reform desire. So you'll be able to pass more reforms faster. You can change it later, but this is usually the best one to take, especially in the early game. Teutons not looking so good. They will get sieged down and peace out. And that's basically going to be my goal for this entire thing, is just to peace out everybody independently and isolate these guys. And that way we can take as much as we want in this war, which obviously is going to be everything that we need for the mission, and we will be able to indeed take that for a very nice amount of war score. We do have the Russian Patriarchate here. Like I said before, going to give us cost of reducing war exhaustion. It might be useful. Also gives us a free stability and some Patriarch authority, and Orthodox countries will like us quite a bit more, which is always very nice to see. And finally, at last, we can go ahead and we can even get a little bit of money from them for our troubles. We can now annex the entirety of Finland and go ahead and click this mission, which I've been looking forward to for quite a while, the Conquest of Finland. And you can go ahead and read the flavor text, but we are going to release Finland as an independent state, make them a vassal, gaining the extra diplo relation, and we will go ahead and we will recruit these cavalry. Now, I don't really know why they get this cola up this here. I don't think they should, to be honest with you. I think it's just because it's the area. But yeah, we've released Finland. Finland is a great subject. They have really good ideas. They start with defensive and economic. They get discipline in their national ideas, fort defense, which I will show you a little bit more about that. They have that which gives them cav combat ability, and then production efficiency so far. And we obviously have the force limit. So let's go ahead and recruit this whatever this is company. It's 8 cavalry. They actually have a decent general as well. You can see here they do an extra 1 shock. That's double damage, essentially. They can act autonomously. They have the cavalry to infantry ratio. So if they wanted to, they could just run around and be a stack on their own. But I'm going to incorporate them into my army. They also get movement speed, which is just nice. Well, let's start working on some workshops. These are what's going to allow your economy to really start snowballing. And here we go. Ivan Grozny, also known as Ivan the Terrible in the West, a 656. I will happily take that. This guy is 62, so I was about to lose a stability when he dies anyway. So let's go ahead and go with that. Very, very nice. Might as well take some combat bonus in owned territory. Not really worried about aggressive expansion. Crimea is not a co-belligerent, but I don't really care a whole lot. Not that much Diplo, so I say we just go ahead and do it. And then at the same time, I want to take at least everything that I have claims on over here. That's the stuff that's cheaper to core. If you don't know, claims give you 10% cheaper core creation cost. And we also have that 15 from our idea from before, and that is going to allow us to get all of that, which is good. We have a gold mine here that we will be able to use to boost up our economy a little bit more. We have subjugated Kazan, which will gain us a conquistador, which is pretty cool, and some more claims over here, which obviously we want those because that is going to allow us to go to war with Nogai, who we just pieced out recently, and we will be able to go to war with them very soon. For tier 4 state and religion, I'm going to go ahead and go with curtail clerical privileges. It is going to allow us to get a little bit of extra religious unity, which is nice since we're pushing into the steppes now. It's also going to give us admin tech cost discount, which if you don't know, 10% is the base of 600, so 10% of 600 is 60, so it's minus 60 mana off of each tech moving forward, which is going to save us quite a bit in the long term. Now I'm going to build a fort over here in the forest over in the Urals. That is going to give us a continuous fort line all the way from here over here into Estonia. So that is a very good practice to have, a nice continuous fort line. We're going to go ahead and annex Estonia here and get started on making those borders nice and pretty. Meanwhile, I'm also upgrading trade centers and building trade buildings when I have the ability to get a little bit more money because the earlier you make more money, the more you can snowball in the long game. And now all of our claims from now on are super, super cheap, only 10 because of the very powerful ideas that are espionage. Now I'll attack these guys in the mountains here, and I'll show you why right here. We actually receive less damage because we are attacking them in the mountains and they're a horde. So if you don't know, fighting a horde in the mountains is basically always the appropriate move. In order to get this claim the steppes, we need at least 10 provinces in this general region. So let's go ahead and make our way down through here. Pretty nice. We can cut them in half, and we can even take another province over here. That will allow us to actually start working into Astrakhan as a trade company here. As you can see, we do not have Central Asia technically outside of Europe. So we can add all of these provinces here to the trade company, and I'm going to do that. Trade companies are very, very powerful. It's not optimal to like add all of them because it does hurt your governing capacity, but you can just go ahead and give up a little bit of crown land in order to get some more governing capacity. But what that's going to do is it is going to allow us to invest into these guys here, getting some extra trade power in these regions. And what that is going to do is hopefully get us to the point where we're going to be very close. Yep, we get an extra merchant entirely for free. Also, it increases the amount of trade goods that we can steer from here, which obviously we want to be steering if we can. So our income goes from 15 in trade up to 19 just from adding a couple provinces to a trade node. Really good. Now that we boarded the Ottomans, we're going to get a couple of extra forts in the south. It's definitely going to slow them down. That's the big one. We want to slow them down because they're going to come. And when they come, they're going to come hard. We have an event here that's going to allow us to gain a little bit of government reform. We can choose to either reform the army or become more trade oriented. So institution spread would be quite nice, but we won't have that for 25 years. I think I'd rather have the mill tech. That's going to allow us to get mill tech cheaper or develop for a little bit cheaper as well. We can also now repeal this whatever system. It is going to allow us to get an extra 33% reform progress growth, or at least give us back what we are working on. We lose the stability, totally worth it. Now reforms are going to come a lot faster than they were before. So it turns out that Ivan Grozny is craven but also strict. So we lose morale but gain discipline. Seems legit. Also, as we can afford it, we want to start getting more cannons into our armies as well. Look at these beautiful, perfect borders. You love to see it. And the player map mode is even better. We're less than 100 years in, and we are without a doubt one of the strongest nations in the world. We're in the number 4 spot, but as soon as we embrace institution, we'll go up to number 3. We can embrace the institution, so we're going to go ahead and do that. But before we take any technologies, we're going to pop our golden era. That is going to get us the maximum bang for our buck. If you do not know, your golden era allows you to get quite a few good bonuses, including all power costs. So everything that costs mana, well, almost everything that costs mana, costs 10% less. So you can see here, we're going to get Admin Tech 10 for 484 mana. That is quite a bit lower, almost 120 lower than the base cost. For our next idea, we are going to be going with religious ideas. Obviously, a religious is super powerful, and with all the mana that we saved, we're going to get an extra missionary. So we now have 3 that we will be using to convert even more of the lands over here with. And of course, we will form the Russian nation, because why wouldn't we? We, of course, will take the new ideas. And you can see here, I think these ideas are about the same that they were before, but the big one that we're looking for here is Siberian Frontiers. You can see we have extra core creation cost on top of a shift and administrative focus. We have minus 30% core creation cost, hence why we took it earlier. 33% national manpower, which is giving us 1,700 manpower per month. Artillery cost and artillery combat ability. So aside from our buffed cavalry, we also get buffed cannons. And we'll also get morale of armies and fire damage received at the end, finishing with some legitimacy. So all in all, Russia is incredibly powerful. But we will go ahead and make St. Petersburg our capital. We will gain a ton of prestige. There's not really anything we can do with our prestige. So we'll click the button. All excess prestige will be converted into each type of monarch point. So since we have so much prestige, we are actually going to get 300 mana. So let's take a look at that. Beautiful. Our capital is now in St. Petersburg, and it added 9 development. But scrolling down here, you can see we have founded the Russian Tsardom, which is going to give us increased centralization will be removed. It just happens whenever you form a new tag. And we are also for 20 years going to get some serious bonuses to our monthly progress for our special button clicks. And we also get modernization now. modernization is basically kind of like westernization, the old style of it. And you can see here we are not gaining very much, and that is because each thing that we have to our estates is going to be lowering it just a little bit. So pulling a few of these guys away is probably going to be in our best interest. So we're going to go ahead and just start working on that. We've got plenty of legitimacy with all these guys, so we're going to go ahead and do that. We also have other missions down here, which is going to give us some unrest and reform progress for 25 years. Very useful. And then we have abolished the whatever that is, which is the estate privilege that we took earlier, which is going to give us an event that's going to give us some reform progress and some modernization, which is pretty nice. Now, we're going to slowly lose that modernization, but we're going to be working on it. Once we get rid of early serfdom, it's going to get much faster. Now, for tier 5, there's quite a few good military doctrines. You can go with this one here with the military staff, which is going to give reinforced speed, which is really powerful. And then supply limit, very useful. Reinforced cost, very good. We are also going with the cavalry focus, so a cavalry warfare would be useful, but man, giving us extra streltsy and making them even better, we're going to have to go with that. We can now have up to 62 streltsy and 16 Cossacks cavalry, so let's go ahead and get those guys all raised up. How would you like to see these guys eyeing you down? We've got 20,000 streltsy, 7,000 Cossacks, and 9,000 of those Finnish cavalry. This army here is going to be punching pretty heavy. And since we are at war with these guys, we are able to push into their terra incognita. So we're going to have this army headhunting and taking out as many of the enemy armies as we can, while these guys are carpet sieging them down. And of course, whenever you're conquering, you want to be sure that you are being smart with what you're taking. We want to claim the steppes, so we need at least one province over here, and we also want to destroy the hordes, which means we need to get down to Nogai. So we're going to get down there, we're going to take a couple provinces over here, and then we are going to snake all the way over here, because that is going to allow us to use our Siberian frontiers, open it up, because if you don't know, you can use Siberian frontiers on any province that borders one of your cores, as long as you can trace it back to your capital, that is. And here we go. We have finally made it to the edge of their territory. This is the peace deal that we will take. It looks disgusting. I agree. Beyond the Urals requires these 2 cores, so we should take them as well. Beautiful. Wait 1 month and we discover all of these guys, and we instantly get the Siberian frontiers going, and they will spread incredibly fast. And look at that. We're already past Lake Baikal. Of course, we will claim the steppes, which is going to give us a ton of claims, as well as a conquistador and some admin mana, which is always appreciated. We've also gone beyond the Urals, which will convert a couple of provinces for us, as well as the culture. And we will get some local goods produced in West Siberia, which is going to be very good for our economy. We also get Yermak Timofeyevich, and as we push more into Western Siberia, obviously we will get these bonuses as well. And with a cheeky annex on these lads over here, we will also finish Destroy the Hordes for 100 years. We will receive morale, monthly devastation reduction, and global prosperity growth, and as well as 100 PP. So here's the part where the Russian Orthodox Church has declared independence. Now, we can lead the true faith from St. Petersburg based, Third Rome and all that, though I guess Third Rome is actually like Moscow, not St. Petersburg. But either way, we can either give up some Patriarch authority, get claims. We can give up a lot of Patriarch authority and get permanent claims. I'm not going to be looking down that way, but if you guys want to, and you've decided to push more into Lithuania or Poland, feel free to get those claims, because they're not going anywhere, and the Ottomans, you're going to want to beat up on them early on, especially if you plan to head down that way. Like I said, it's not what I'm going to for this guide, but feel free to do it for yourself. We shall continue the colonial growth, of course. And this right here is what I was talking about earlier when we were talking about early serfdom. Here's the thing. You can only have early serfdom if you have the nobility. And what we are going to do is we are going to get rid of the nobility with parliamentarism. And that is going to immediately revoke this guy. You see, we're going to go a couple of days just like that. And now our modernization is going to be skyrocketing, and it's going to give us institution embracement cost, which is going to be pretty nice. And I'm not sure, but I assume that once we get it all the way up, we'll get an event or some sort. But basically, this is going to unlock a lot of stuff for us. That's going to be really good. And also earlier, I had mentioned giving your forts to your subjects. Take a look. We have 10 defensiveness here, but if I give it to Finland, it's up to 40. So I don't have to pay for it, and it gets extra defensiveness, and it's harder to siege back for the enemies. So both very useful things. So yeah, you can see that with Cavalry Russia, we are inflicting some incredible casualties on these. Poland alone has taken over 100,000, with Lithuania at 60, Brandenburg at 40, and Hungary at almost 25,000. So clearly, these guys are going to be wanting out of the war sooner rather than later. Just like that, Russia grows larger yet, and we can core it all up because we are absolutely overpowered. And about now is a good time to kick Uzbek out of the steppes here, because obviously we have to consolidate the steppes, meaning we need to push down this way. We've also colonized Eastern Siberia, which is going to give us a level 2 center of trade in Tomsk. It will give us a claim on the East Siberia region. allowing us to go to war with some people over here if we do decide. And we have Deus Volt, so what do you guys say we do a little bit of a Deus Volting? Chagatai will join, and I do not give a rip. We will go ahead, get these guys sieged down in their entirety as quickly as humanly possible, and we will force the peace deal and get a lot of stuff a lot cheaper. And the printing press is here, which is going to be pretty good. We may need to develop it, but that's fine as well. And since we have been investing into courthouses, we can actually afford to add all of this land to the Siberian trade companies, and it is going to immediately make us very, very wealthy. Take a look at this, lads. We are going to also invest in the Russian township, which is going to increase the trade value of every province in the node by 10%. And you can take a look here. Our trade value is going to go from 30 up to 34 every single month. We gain an extra 4 ducats a month for the rest of the game, basically. And that money is then going to be invested into getting extra trade power, but also investing into here, getting extra goods produced as well as production efficiency. So that's going to be very useful. And there you go. That's it. Meanwhile, I'm getting a little bit of spy network over here because we are going to be stealing maps. And you can see here, we only need 40 because of the full espionage. So definitely going to be very, very useful. We're going to go ahead and take that, steal some maps of East Siberia, see what's going on over here. And soon enough, we will be able to get our Siberian frontiers pushing over that way. And we do have claims on some of the land over here, so we can start attacking and pushing into this as well. And meanwhile, we just get claims on all of the lands over here. Why not? After getting a few Streltsy and building up to 80% of our force limit, we have recruited the Streltsy, which is going to give us an event allowing us to set up a salary system for them, giving 5 shock damage received, or we can just take some mill mana right now. I'm going to go ahead and buff our Streltsy. And this is what happens when an Indian blob runs into the Russian blob. So proclaiming the Russian Empire here, it is going to give us some max absolutism, institution embracement costs. I think that basically means we are fully modernized, and that is going to allow us to get the new Russian rule abilities, which are beautiful, by the way. We do lose our Streltsy capacity. However, once you have them built, you can keep them. So we're going to be sitting here at 73,000 Streltsy that are going to be very useful when we decide to go to war with these boys down to the south. Ugly borders, but I wanted to take the most amount of provinces possible. That is going to set us up for success in the future. We're going to have to go to war with them again eventually. Now, the Ottomans are getting incredibly big and incredibly powerful. We are incredibly big and incredibly powerful. They have low manpower, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to beeline it for this higher tech. This is going to get us better cavalry, better fire damage for our infantry, and it will give us a military edge on the Ottomans and will allow us to push into their lands. We definitely need to take some lands in Crimea, but we also want to get some land in the Caucasus so we can get started on that portion of the mission tree as well. In terms of tier 7 for the administrative cadre, always go with meritocratic recruitment. Advisor costs and corruption alone is just incredibly powerful. Also, I've given a couple of privileges to the patriarchs here because that is going to allow us to finish up a couple of missions here. This one here is going to give us a bit of crown land and some admin mana, which is always appreciated. Then following up, this one here is going to give us an event that will allow us to select between one of 3 focuses. So when we take a look at that, we can either go with a little bit of reform progress and admin mana, as well as some reform progress growth, as well as tech cost, which is pretty solid. Diplo, which is going to give us trade efficiency and Diplo tech cost, as well as mercantilism, or some army tradition, mill mana, and mill tech cost, as well as some army tradition. I'm going to go ahead and go with the reform progress and the admin mana. That is fine with me. We also are able to modernize the state, giving us a bit more reform progress. I'm going to upgrade these guys because we are preparing and we are going to be going to war with the Ottomans. I got my armies moving into place, and I'm currently in the process of recruiting some more cannons because we need more boom boom sticks so we can kill more Turks. That means we have a military tech advantage on the Ottomans, as well as our obvious bonuses for our cavalry. So you can see here, things are going to get pretty serious pretty quickly. We're also going to switch on over to the icon of Saint Michael, getting us a total of 115 discipline. So you can see stacking modifiers is going to be very important for these wars to come. We've also got almost an entire back row of cannons. It's good to get as many cannons as you can in your armies. It lets you inflict more casualties while also taking less. The first stack and weapon of the run. And you can see here just how strong we are, even though they actually have more discipline than we do, if you can believe that. We are going to shred them. Now, they have good numbers, but we have a lot more manpower than they do. The heavier the losses we inflict on them, the easier this war will get for us. And so it's important, especially early on, to take out as many men as you possibly can. These stack wipes are very important. Since we're maxed out here on Diplo, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take this next idea group, which is going to be trade, because trade is going to allow us to basically have infinite money for the rest of the game. And we can go ahead and take that first one because we are going to take this tech on time to make sure we stay ahead of time so we can get that 20% trade efficiency. But after staying ahead of time on tech, we just go for the idea groups. Here we go, boys. Leroy Jenkins. And you can see their manpower pool very slowly going down, and they had 180,000 last time I looked. Clearly, they are less than that. And now is the part where we try to make this war hurt them as much as humanly possible. So what you're going to do is we are going to find provinces that do not border a fort using the fort map mode down in the bottom corner here. And we are going to occupy every single province that does not have one of these red lines on it saying that it is within a zone of control, and we are going to devastate the crap out of them. That means occupying as well as scorching those provinces, ensuring that they get as much devastation as possible. That is going to really hurt the monthly income of manpower that they're going to get, and quickly allow them to spiral after this war. And what that devastation is going to do is ensure that there is no prosperity in those states, which very much hurts their economy, but also ensures that those provinces become over time even more useless than they possibly could be. The Duma coming in clutch, getting us a little bit of stability and manpower recovery speed, so very much appreciated. Oh, and it looks like their decadence is spiraling out of control. You can see here our siege ability is really good, and that is because the Ottomans' decadence is really high. I don't actually know how to check. I'm sure as the patch moves along, we'll kind of figure out the best way to keep track of these sorts of things. But yeah, I think the Ottomans are about to go through a bit of a turbulent time. And since we have all this spy network, we might as well be using it to hurt them even more. And this is a pretty good peace deal. It's going to allow us to take the entirety of the Black Sea coast that we need for our mission, as well as quite a bit of land over here and a bit of money for our trouble. We will also be able to release a Gazak Mook down here. That will give us this mission here, giving us tolerance of the true faith, which is always appreciated, and a ton of claims down here, which we will push in the next war with the Ottomans. Now, you can see here, they are quite devastated, and we are quite not devastated. So safe to say the Ottomans are not going to be doing too well for too long. For the tier 8, I think I'm just going to go with the Vodka of the Crown. There is a mission that is required for it right here, and you can either develop some lands or get the government reform. We're going to go with the government reform because the 10% goods produced very heavily will outweigh the 5% idea cost, and the national unrest is a useful tool to have. We will likewise gain some manas because that is always nice. And finishing up trade ideas, we're going to go ahead and get an extra merchant, trade power abroad, and the big one here, another 10% goods produced, as well as missionary strength. So you can see how things are starting to really pile on here. Our goods produced numbers are going to increase our trade income quite a bit. And since we have manufactories that we can use on fur producing provinces, we really want to start kickstarting the fur trade. All of that fur trade is being steered directly into Novgorod, and depending on how much we can invest in our trade companies within the next 10 years or so, we can probably spawn global trade here in Novgorod, which of course is going to be our goal. Pushing a bit more into the steps, you can see that we are going to get some serious trade power out here, as well as some trade centers will gain some base production, as well as a modifier for some development and construction. All very good stuff. And of course, at this point, I have set you guys up for success. We have the ideal idea groups to really stack some very powerful modifiers. We have built up our economy to the point where nothing can stop us, and we can easily spawn global trade here. You can see we're only about 8 ducats off from the English Channel, which would be pretty impressive to spawn it here. I'm called into a war because England attacked Castile and all their allies joined, and I just really don't feel like dealing with it at the moment. But the last few things that you would need to be doing would be to push through Ruthenia, finish this mission, push into Poland, finish that mission, push into Carpathia, finish that mission, and you will be able to unite the Slavic group and then push onto Constantinople, of course, solidifying yourself as the true Third Rome. But Russia is a ton of fun in 1.35. I hope that you guys learned something today, and if you did, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for plenty more content to come. Thanks again, Paradox, for sponsoring the video and for getting me early access to this wonderful patch. I look forward to playing with it and Domination for many months to come. And a huge shout out to the patrons and channel members who keep this channel going. If you want early access to these videos and exclusive Discord benefits, make sure you check out the link in the description or the join button below the video.